question that I have also is the fact that Dr. Rauf was talking about how amoebic infections are much more complicated. Now, brain-related illnesses, brain-related infections are all dangerous. We of course have heard multiple such instances, but what exactly makes Naegleria Fowleri so dangerous? If you can just help our viewers understand in a very simple manner.
See, anything that is not a major problem is also going to be much less studied. Unless you have enough numbers, we don't know the natural history of the disease. See, we know some amount of the wild cycle of this particular pathogen, but we don't know exactly why, how, who it hits. I understand that most of the people who fall victim to Naegleria are generally the so-called healthy people. So obviously there is something different which is happening over here. We believe it's small canals between the brain and the nasal cavity through which they're able to escape in. But beyond that, we are not able to say anything more at this point of time. More data needs to come in. So when you have a rare disease like this, it's always a problem because you cannot capture data. The first step is always doing two things. One is epidemiological surveys to find the pathogen to see where it is, and also then start doing aggressive case finding. In the places where you see it epidemiologically, start looking at these unknown neurological deaths and then start digging into it to see, are we missing cases of things like Naegleria, to see what more needs to be done. The next step is obviously research in terms of what are the agents which could be helpful in this. And in general, we know that the earlier you find a diagnosis, the easier it is to treat. And that also ties in, because if you're aware that there's a problem, and if you're aware there are cases coming up, doctors are more vigilant. Like, let's look at what happened in Kerala with regard to the second Nipah outbreak. They were vigilant, they saw a pattern, immediately they picked it up. There's no two ways about it. If you are vigilant and you know there is something like that, it becomes easier to pick it up. And after that, we need to have data collection in terms of treatment options being used. You can't do studies in this when it's such a rare disease. That's why we need to have a central repository of cases which have been confirmed, looking at what options have been used for test treatment, and then looking at what works and what doesn't work. We also need in vitro studies and things like that. Unfortunately, this is an orphan disease in that because it's such a rare disease, the interest in the scientific community in doing further research and finding specific drugs for this is going to be difficult. Therefore, we need to have a research-based approach to this, where we have universities and research agencies looking into this.
Also, Dr. Swaminathan, we'll just take a quick point from Dr. Rauf there, because he was talking about, sorry to interrupt you there, because he was talking about a certain medication that he seems to have worked out that is now working on a few patients. Dr. Rauf, Dr. Swaminathan is also on the panel. Can you help us understand what's this cocktail of medicines that you seem to have worked out that you say is also now working on one of your patients who seems to have, recovered quite a bit?
Yeah, so just I will, Dr. Subramanian sir was explaining very beautifully. So the first important thing is early diagnosis. So when the second case came, actually, when we diagnosed the second consecutive case, we made a awareness message and we circulated to all the doctors group, pediatricians and physicians across the state. So the case now I am treating. So when the day he developed symptoms like headache and seizures, the peripheral hospital where he was seen, the physician, he immediately called me and he referred that patient. So we could confirm the diagnosis within 24 hours and we started the treatment, which is again, as per CDC, they have recommended a cocktail of 5 medications, especially, which include antifungal amphotericin, then rifampicin, azithromycin, fluconazole, and miltefosine, anti-helminthic.
Well, Dr. Rauf, in case you missed it, sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Swaminathan also had a round of applause for you there, because of course you're pointing out that we're of course, Dr. Swaminathan was also talking about how important early diagnosis and early treatment is, and that's exactly what you seem to have done, and that's exactly what seems to be working. So a round of applause there by Dr. Swaminathan as well.
Thank you. So both doctors' awareness as well as public awareness is very important. As sir was saying, if anybody has taken bath in these, they have to avoid all this. Now, by chance they have took bath and they develop any of these symptoms, they have to seek immediate medical attention. Yeah.
And if I may add here,
right, Dr. Rauf, really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. All right, Dr. Swaminathan, one last point we'll take. We just are running short of time on the broadcast. So one final point we'll take from you.
We should now have a public campaign where we educate the public about the safety and the risks of this, so that people don't forget this. We should never have this happen again. And that happens only with public awareness and education. And I think they're making the moves for that. Let's commend them, and let's take this as a good takeaway for the future events that may happen.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Like you rightly pointed out, this is, of course, a very important discussion that we needed to have. Let's not be alarmist about that. Let's actually focus on this scientifically, and also, as a viewer, as someone, I'm pretty sure even a medical practitioner who might be watching you right now might have found this discussion very insightful as well, given the fact that Dr. Rao clearly there helped us understand that early diagnosis and early treatment is also a very key factor, and also the entire procedure there explained beautifully by Dr. Swaminathan as well. Really appreciate you, gentlemen, joining us on the broadcast.